Shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors and much respects to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai's peace be bestowed unto you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And, I'm just going to do this video, analyzing and assessing the situation through the Spirit. Last Friday, me and the brother Oriah, we go out, basically a Friday's camp, a Friday's fellowship. Try to go every Friday or every other Friday at least, Lord willing, things don't come up. So, having the opportunity to go out last Friday, and just through the Spirit again, because whenever brothers go out, whenever brothers put these videos up, whenever brothers go out to the highways and hedges, that's a piece of Esau's kingdom going down, and being that we stay fervent for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, being that the Lord is ramping things up, and He's getting ready to shut this ministry down. So, now more than ever, we ought to be on fire. So just having the opportunity to go out one more time. Like I said, this was last Friday. And like I said, analyzing and just assessing through the Spirit. You had this particular heathen woman come up. Just chopping it up through the Spirit. Like I said, looking back on it, assessing and analyzing it through the Spirit, and leaving me to believe that this was a possible agent, because just the short dialogue that we had, me and this particular woman, because she walked by a few times. She was a good-looking woman at that, a good-looking heathen woman, a good-looking concubine, which of course I already proclaimed, or I claimed. All right. But like I said, because me and the brother Ariah afterwards, we was talking about the situation. Because again, the chick, man, she looked good. She looked hella good. Definitely my type. We always talk about, because some brothers are, when it comes to dealing with women, some brothers are more go-getters. Some brothers are more the type to just go out there and talk to the broad. Other brothers, such as myself, we like to look for particular choosing signals and things of that nature. Whatever the case may be, every brother has their taste. Every brother has their thing. Like I said, I'm the type to, because I don't have time to waste time. I'm not finna sit there and chase or run after a broad or anything like that. I like to wait for the choosing signals. So with all that being said, because like I said, this particular heathen, you don't really see her until she walks off at the end of the dialogue. You don't really see her walk off. But like I said, she walked by a few times. She acknowledged brothers. She acknowledged us. And this was just one of those times she walked up, and like I said, just we started dialoguing. It's like I said, me and the brother, we were talking about it, analyzing, assessing the whole situation, and like I said, through the Spirit, coming to the conclusion that this was a possible agent. Just the information that she was bringing out, because me, for the most part, I always stay spiritual for the most part. I usually, in certain moments, such as this would have been one of those moments where, just in the spirit, it's kind of like having an outer body experience. While you're in it, while you're going through the experience, you have this outer body experience, and you're just assessing. You just, all right, well, what's going on in the situation. Like I said, just being in the spirit. And it's crazy because this was the one time that I wasn't really in the spirit. I wasn't in that mode. So I didn't catch it in the moment. But, and this is one of those things. Me and Ariel, we was talking about it because it's cold how the Lord did it. Because I ain't gonna front. All right, like I said, this particular chick, man, like I said, she walked by a few times. She acknowledged us, and I didn't even notice it. Brothers. Well, I didn't notice it as much as brothers did, because when she came up to dialogue, her attention was focused directly on me. She wanted to talk directly to me, and I didn't notice it. Brothers had to point it out. The whole time while she was walking by and whatnot, she was eyeballing me. And like I said, she gave all the choosing signals. While we were dialoguing, she gave all the choosing signals. Like I said, I ain't gonna front. I ain't gonna front. I would have. And again, it goes to show you how it's a spirit at the end of the day. Because brothers even mentioned how, as she was walking off, she asked for Instagram or something. She asked for something. I didn't even hear the part. I didn't even hear that part. But basically, as she was walking off, I told her, if you want to learn more, just look up GMS Orlando. That was the last thing I said to her before she walked off. But it just goes to show you how everything's in the spirit of the Lord and how the Lord worked it out. Because I would have straight up just stepped off camera real quick and got the number. But yeah, it was all in the spirit, man. The Lord definitely, I believe wholeheartedly, the Lord was definitely looking out for Jake. Because like I said, that was the one time I wasn't really in the zone like that. I wasn't in the spirit. I wasn't, in the moment. It wasn't until after the fact I came to the conclusion, that this was a possible agent. And just the things that she was talking about, which led me to believe, that this was a possible agent, and all the more reason why, hey, we ought to be circumspect, we ought to be, careful, be alert, aware, redeeming the times at all times. I'm gonna grab this real quick in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 27. It says, it says Ephesians 4 and 27, neither give place to the devil. So when you read that in the different translations, man, it goes into how, hey, pretty much don't give Satan an opportunity. Don't allow him to get the uphold. Don't allow him to get the upper hand, so to say, pretty much. Because like I said, the one time I wasn't in that mode, but nevertheless, the Lord still looked out for Jake, because if I was in the spirit, I would have immediately recognized it, and hey, because that's one me for the most part I don't do anyways. I don't teach women. There's few. It's rare. Like you really have to be. Like there's one beloved family member of mine. I really got love for. That I'll actually one woman in my life, like I said, she's family, that I would actually go out of my way to sit down and go over scriptures and things of that nature. Other than that, I don't teach women for the most part. If anything, if that, I'll give them my page channel, if that, because simply this thing of ours it's just simply not for women, but there are a few exceptions to the rule, so like I said, the one time that I wasn't in the spirit. If I was in the spirit, I would have pretty much, you know, I wouldn't have dialogued as long as I did with this particular woman, this chick, if I was in the spirit. But like I said, the Lord still worked it out to where, hey, he was looking out, So, just with that being said, Lord willing, you can, because I'm gonna play the part, and hopefully you can hear, because she's going into the Zionists, and she's going into some juicy information. So hopefully you can hear it clearly. Israelites.
They're real Israelis. And the people living in Israel, all of them are from Europe and Eastern Europe, these areas that they're Jewish, but they're not the real tribes of Israel.
That's why there's war over there right now. Because the real people are not in the land.
Are not.
What are you? What are you going to your father?
I'm Moroccan.
Okay.
So we're Muslim, but just this having the Middle East, it's just the Zionist Jews are not. They don't even follow things. In Morocco, they used to live in Morocco as well, a long time ago, after World War II. They used to live in the Arabic countries in peace. But after the establishment of Israel, they became more Zionist, more government, more political, not following Judaism, the books, the 12 tribes. So, yeah, it's good to see that.
Okay, a little something. That's what's up.
It's good to see their tribes still alive.
Yep. Hey, everything's leading towards World War III.
Yeah.
And after World War III, that's when the real people of the land are going to be put back up in the land. That's when the Lord's going to come. That's when there's going to be true peace. True peace over there in the Middle East and on the world, on the earth. So, it's all according to prophecy.
What is your guys' we're waiting for our car, but what does your guys think about Israel, that country?
What do you mean? And you see, like I said, hopefully you can hear it. Because, like I said, for the most part, I don't teach women. I don't try to get too deep into it. So, I was kind of trying to, hurry up and, hey, pretty much, hey, you have a good day, But then she asked a particular question, which she just asked this question, and Ariel brought it out, about how we feel about Israel or the Israelis, almost in a way like she was trying to set us up for something, set us up to be demonized or something. Ariel had pointed that out. So that's why, like I said, it wasn't until after the fact, me and Ariel are discussing, yeah, she asked this question. I'm going to go ahead and play on.
Your take on as the 12 tribes of Israel, religiously?
Well, you said it. I mean, those people over there, they're not the real people.
Right.
That's why there's war over there.
Right.
And according to prophecy, if the real people were over there would be peace. Obviously, there's no peace over there. You know about the Balfour Declaration? Yeah. According to prophecy, the Messiah himself would bring his people to the land. So they say that's a fulfillment. The Balfour Declaration was a fulfillment. Well, where's the Lord at? Where's the Messiah? Where's King David? Again, why is there still war going on? Where's the peace? So I mean, you said it yourself. They're not the real people. Yeah, you see, because she answered her own question and whatnot. But like I said, it seemed like she was trying to set us up to be demonized or get us choked up or something. And you see the brother laughing. The brothers were smirking because, like I said, the whole time she walked by a few times, and the brother said it. How she was pretty much eyeballing me. She was choosy as hell. Like I said, me and brothers talked afterward. Like, man, you should have got a number, this and that, blah blah blah. But like I said, the Lord set it up to where, hey, I just kept it spiritual. But yeah, she's asking these questions and bringing out certain information, which like I said, man, it just led me to believe through the spirit, coming to the conclusion that this was a possible agent. I believe there's more.
It's the only place in the world where genetic DNA testing is not allowed. Like all the they're from Eastern Europe, Russia, Belarus, Poland,
you know, those people over there in the so-called Middle East right now, they're not the real people. Because when you read the book of Deuteronomy 28, going into the curses from 15 on down, those set of curses from Deuteronomy 28, from verse 15 all the way on down, that only matches one nation of people. So they don't fit those curses. They try to, put themselves in the curses. Like a part of the curses that befell our people were the women and how they would lose their hair. They would have bald hair. So what do they do to try to force themselves in the curses? Those Israeli women, they shave their hair and they put wigs on to try to make it seem like they're part, the curse pertain to them. So, I mean, we could be here all day,
but what's sad is like half of these people on the list, they want to deport them from America now. These people,
right.
Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, all of these different.
Well, ultimately, it's a judgment of the Heavenly Father. Because these people, us, the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native American Indians, West Indians, and Haitians, we broke the laws, statutes, and commandments. And here it is. I just said it. We're at 2025 AD. All right, America, which in the Bible is Babylon. And our people still don't want to repent. So what's getting ready to happen? Hey, the Lord is getting ready to shut them out. Because soon all this is going to be done. All this is going to be different. Soon.
They want to build the Alcatraz in Everglades.
Yep. Well, the scriptures go into that. The scriptures go into that.
And they're happy, like they're on the news, like reporting it, like it's like good, and this is for humans,
Yeah, the scriptures go into the. Well, again, it's all the Heavenly Father's judgment. Because soon, like I said, all this is going to be different. Soon, you see cars going up and down the streets. Soon, it's going to be martial art troops, tanks, drones patrolling the streets. So it's going to be total. All this is going to be. When you read in Jeremiah 30th chapter, it goes into Jacob's trouble. Who's Jacob? He's the progenitor of, he had 12 sons, which consist of from Judah all the way down to Issachar. Alright? So, again, pursuant to Jacob's trouble, the name says it itself. Trouble for Jacob, the Israelites. So when you hear about all what you just mentioned, alright.
Nice to meet you. Where can I follow you guys? For Instagram.
So like I said, she walked by a few times, acknowledged, made certain statements, talking about the Zionists and things of that nature, whatever the case may be, But like I said, man, just overall, looking back and assessing the situation, just led me to believe that this was a possible agent, like I said, man, the questions that were asked, and like I said, man, through the Spirit, the Lord was looking out, man, because she as she was walking off, well, brother said it, like I said, I didn't even hear it. That's why I just gave her the page channel. I gave her our camp page, the GMS Orlando camp page. My brother said she was asking for the Instagram or something. I didn't hear that part. It just goes to show you how the Lord had to intervene, because I sure would have stepped to the side and, but when you're on the clock, man, you're on the clock, man, doing the Lord's work, you don't really, everything else is pretty much irrelevant when we're on the clock, So I wasn't really, in it like that, but like I said, man, really led me to believe that this was a possible agent, grab this. Like I said, it's all the more reason how I took it to be more circumspect, be more spiritual. Like I said, me and Ariel had a happy conversation afterwards, after the fact. Usually, for the most part, being in the Spirit, I would usually call that shit out, right then and there, and deal with it right then and there. But that was the one time you could say, for the most part, let my guard down, for the most part, for lack of a better word, But even with that, because like I said, I was still kind of trying to, because I really don't teach women like that, So I was still trying to, just hey, keep it brief and hey, you have a good day, you know. And you know what's cool about it, because I told Ariel, man, hey, because hey, just through the spirit, man, I've been having a lot of these premonitions, man, and they've been, hey, the shit's been coming to pass, I remember this was months back when we were doing a split camp, you know, and I mentioned during the split camp, that hey, I had one of those premonitions, man, that hey, because I have a relative, a brother, a blood brother. He follows. Well, he doesn't anymore, but at the time he followed. So Sakari, you know, and I had a premonition. I was mentioning this during the live camp, or during the split camp, that I just had one of those premonitions, man. That hey, something's going to happen with Sakari, man. Something's going to happen with Sakari that's going to shake Sakari up, And with that being said, my blood brother that follows Sakari, something was going to happen to where, hey, he was going to come to me and start inquiring and asking questions, because it's always been on the back of my mind. Because listen, we know that when it comes to these other camps, the Lord's not dealing with them, So I would always have it in the back of my mind, it's, my blood brother, just because he's being my blood brother, he thinks, and this is just me as far as, I'll play this scenario out in my mind, because I would always ask myself, like, damn, what if my blood brother comes running up and looking to get into GMS, he wants to get into Great Millstone, but hey, I always keep it in the back of my mind, like, just because my blood brother, or he's my blood brother, that doesn't mean he's gonna make it. That doesn't mean he's going to be able to just cross over to the camp, get a free ticket just because he's my blood brother. I would always have that in my back of my mind, But I did, having that premonition, something was going to happen with Sakari. It was going to break him up. All right. And my brother was going to come, asking questions, and stuff like that. And sure enough, months later, the whole shit with Sakari, man, and I kid you not, because it was after it was that day when, all this information with Alazar came out, it was that day, I believe it was a Sunday, because we did a fellowship Sunday, at this spot, because this is what I first started teaching. So we make it a thing as far as my camp. We come out here every first Sunday, to burn this bitch down, So it was the first Sunday we was at this spot where we're at right here on this video. International, for those that are familiar, the icon, what they call the Eye of Orlando, and fellowshipping, of course, and whatnot, and afterwards, on the way home, on the way back to the crib, sure enough, I didn't even check my phone, but when I got to the crib, because my brother was there, so when I got to the crib and everything, sure enough, as soon as I got in the door, he's, asking questions and this and that, and he was blowing up my phone the whole time. Like I said, I didn't check my phone, so I had all these text messages and phone calls, because he had called me, I didn't know, so that was just one of those premonitions, man. I was telling the brother, hey, I had another premonition, man, because it's just a real strong feeling in the spirit, but I was talking to Ariel, like, hey, I'm having another premonition, man, because I believe I'm going to see this woman again, whether it be in the kingdom, but I believe, because like I said, I claim her regardless, because like I said, she walked by a few times, man, and she looked good, hell, I believe earlier in the video, you hear me saying, hey, that's me, I claimed her, while we was, because she kept walking by, man, and she was choosy as hell, and you might have some that, well, damn, why you didn't get a number? Well, like I said, hey, the Lord, he worked it out to where I believe he was looking out for me, man. He was looking out for Jake, because, hey, that's why I got this here, because we got the account with well, let me get it real quick. And Samson dealing with who's that? Delilah. And I wholeheartedly believe that the Lord was protecting me. He was looking after Jake, man. What's that? Judges 16. Judges 16. I'm gonna start at 6. And Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee." And that's why, look, scripture's going to, hey, man, you're not supposed to, and they even tell you this in the world, man. Never let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, or vice versa. Never let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. All right, and especially when it comes to these women, man, you can't pillow talk these women. You can't let these. You got to stay in mystery when it comes to these women. Yeah, I could have easily, stepped aside and, grabbed the number or whatever the case may be, or whatever the case may be, could have pursued it or whatever. But I wholeheartedly believe that Yahweh Shema Shah was looking after Jake, man. Because like I said, like I keep reiterating, brothers pointed it out, man. I don't know. I don't know. She asked for something, Snapchat or something. I don't know. Which I don't even deal with that shit. But I was just like, hey, just being in the spirit. I wasn't in the spirit as I usually am, because I would have recognized it right then and there. But still being in the spirit, I just, hey, GMS Orlando. If you want to learn more, just look up GMS Orlando. Just gave it a camp page. But as I told the brother, hey, I'm just having another premonition. I believe I'm going to see her again. And I believe I'm going to see her. Just bump into her some random place. Walmart or something. Just having another one of those premonitions. But Judges 16:7. And Samson said unto her, If they bind me with 7 green withs, that there, Slakia, verse 7, and Samson said unto her, If they bind me with 7 green withs that were never dried, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he brake the withs as a thread of tow is broken when it toucheth the fire, so his strength was not known. And Delilah said unto Samson, Behold, thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. I just want to get to the point. We jump down. Matter of fact, let's go to verse 15. It says, And she said unto him, How canst thou say, I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherewith thy great strength lieth. And you see again, for brothers, myself included, you can't let these women, you can't let these women get you, man. You can't let these women, talk you out your value, your game. You got, hey, the scriptures say when it comes to these women, deal with them according to wisdom. Because you know how women are, man. Hey, well, if you love me, you'll, and the whole time this bitch is plotting against you, setting you up. We see it all the time. Eve be setting Jake up, man. Verse 16, and it came to pass when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There have not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto the Heavenly Father from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and be like any other man. And of course, when you go on to read, she took it, she ran with it, and we know the account of what happened to Samson. All right. He spilt the secrets. All right. He gave in. All right. He gave in. All right. Told her everything, and she ended up using it against him. So again, in conclusion, man, overall, like I said, I believe wholeheartedly Yahweh Shema was looking out. He was looking after me, just the way that it played out. You know, could have easily stepped to the side, got the number, whatever the case may be. You know, just how the Lord played that out. I believe He was looking after Jake, man, because this could have been a possible agent, man. Just the way the information she was bringing out, basically she knew too much. You know, she seemed to be all into Jake. You know, and everything. You know, all the tall tale signs were there. Gave me all the choosing signals. That's why you see brothers were laughing. You know, brothers were smirking. You know, but hey, we have to be spiritually mature. You know, spiritually mature, man. You know, because who knows, other than the Lord, you know, if this, let's say this did play out that way, it did go that route. You know, hey, Delilah, how about Shemal Shai? You know, this bitch probably would have, you know, infiltrated my ass. You know, she would have got me, man. You know, that's why you gotta be careful, especially when it comes to these women. Like we read the account in Genesis 39, right? Going into the master's wife that was, you know, basically trying to sleep with Joseph, man. You know, there's many accounts, you know, women betraying men. That's why, hey, we can't give our strength unto these women. You know, and that's why, and we talk about it all the time, you know, the Lord really be preserving brothers from himself. This was a prime example. I believe the Lord was really preserving me for myself. You know, it talks about that in 2 Edges 8, man. You know, the root of evil being sealed up from you. You know, brothers, the Lord protects brothers from themselves, man. And oftentimes that includes, you know, oftentimes brothers don't get what they want. Brothers are deprived, or whatever the case may be. It's the Lord. It's the Lord looking out, because the Lord knows. Hey, you know, if the Lord gives you that woman, man, hey, you know, if you're of the elect, to the Lord, no. You know, if you're of the elect, hey, no, because that woman she's gonna end up getting you, man. You know, you're gonna start coming around the camp less, making excuses for camp. You know, ultimately, I bet you know, lead you out the truth. And on top of that, hey, she'll end up leaving your ass. So, you know, oftentimes, hey, you know, that job you want so bad, man, you know, but hey, no. The Lord's like, no. That job, it'll, you know, hinder you from doing the work, studying, whatever. You know, whatever the case may be, you know, the Lord protects us and preserves us from ourselves. All right, whatever's going to get in the way, whatever could potentially get in the way of us serving Yahweh Shema Shah, the Lord's going to, you know, no. You know, because the Lord is preserving the elect for himself. So, you know, the Lord just gives us what we need. That's why the Lord just gives us what we need. You know, and at the end of the day, hey, when you're ready for a bone, hey, the Lord will throw you a bone. You know, so it's no big deal. All right, there's plenty to go around. You know, but in that time where, hey, you know, you're pretty much without, or whatever the case may be, hey, that's the time that we, you know, give to the Lord, man. You know, I know the more I just focus on myself, whatever the case may be, man, hey, that's more time for the Lord. You know, that's just more time out. Hey, it's dedicated to the Lord. So that's how we got to look at it. You know, because I wholeheartedly believe, man, that you know, if it would have went that way, the Lord would have, this bitch would have got my ass. But that's what's called about it. Either way, hey, you know, I'll see you on the other side. You know, maybe on this side. You know, when you know, however it plays out. You know, but like I said, man, you know, this woman, man, she knew too much. You know, it's just one of those things. She knew a lot. She knew a lot, and it seemed like she was steady trying to set brothers up. You know, in our own words. You know, set a snare or something. You know, like I said, after the fact, man. You know, when me and Ariel was talking about it, some shit it just didn't seem right. You know, there was a lot of things that didn't seem, it seemed fishy. So that's why, like I said, just through the Spirit, you know, coming to the conclusion that it was a possible agent. You know, and I know I'm going to see her again. I know that's going to be the Lord confirming what I believe in the Spirit. You know, somehow, some way, somewhere, you know, just going be random, you know, bump into her again on public or something, you know. The Lord wanted this was edifying, giving all praises to you. How about Shemal Shai? Shalom to you, hopefully, like.